And welcome to Freedom is a Constant Struggle on this February 4th, 2016, with your host and producer Kilu Nyasha, and with the help of our engineer Andrew Montoya, we'll honor Black History Month with archived programming that features African griot Favia Kujichagulia, the late great Yuri Kochiyama, and our beloved martyr Hugo Pinel, also known as Yogi Bear. The first two programs were produced at San Francisco Access, and oh God, me and this stupid computer. The first two programs were produced at San Francisco Access in 2008. The final news clips aired on this is live TV, folks. The final news clips aired on Newswatch 13 and Channel 2 in 1983, focused on the constant attacks against Hugo Pinel in Folsom State Prison and his being labeled the most dangerous prisoner in the state of California. We now go to the interview with Sister Favia Kujichagulia on cultural consciousness. Stay tuned. Did I flub it up bad enough?
Thou shalt not kill, except in wartime when killing is point so.
You so
Welcome to
much.
Freedom is a Constant Struggle, Favia. So good to see you again.
Thank you for having me here. I am so honored to be here with you because you are one of my favorite people.
Oh, thank
your
you.
work and your dedication to the community is inspirational.
Oh,
It's an
thank
inspiration
you.
to me on a daily basis. So I am honored.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
the honor is mine, too. So, Favia, please tell us more about you and some of your history, your illustrious history.
Well, I basically began to get into spoken word because of the power of the word. We know that the word is so powerful, whether you call it meditation, whether you call it prayer, whether you call it a speech, a mantra, a chant, the power of the word is powerful.
Yes.
And we really see that now with the children and how they are memorizing rap lyrics and everything. And you can talk to just about anybody and they can basically quote a little bit of Dr. King's speech, I Had a Dream. Never read it, but they've heard it and can repeat a little bit of it. So I was looking at the power of the word and seeing how powerful we could be if we had the right words and the right information.
I heard that.
And since we've gotten away from reading so much
Right.
to this oral tradition of the sound, and you can basically say just about anything when you have a little beat behind you, a little rhythm.
Oh, yeah.
So I decided,
Yeah.
well, let's put a little medicine in there and let's sugarcoat it with a little music and tell the truth, tell the history, tell the story.
Right on.
So I've been doing that for just about all my life. And decades and decades ago, I know I don't look like I'm over 50, but I am. And
You're amazing.
Decades ago, my brother, he died of AIDS about 20 years ago, told me one day when we were children that the things that I were writing, I would hide under my bed, that was actually called poetry. I never heard that word before. This is my younger brother told me that.
Oh.
And I thought, wow, poetry, that's
All
really
right.
hip. So I just kept writing more, and here I am now. And then I realized the history was so important because so much of our history, our evolutionary process through politics and education and miseducation has been lost, that I decided to put a lot of that history into the poetry.
All
And in
right.
doing so, see how much I could help and heal, because we are really in need of a healing, especially in this country.
Oh,
There's so much
yes.
that we go through.
We certainly are.
So I was trying to see how much of a healing could I create through the music and the word, and then found out later by doing so with the music that what I was actually doing was evolving into a Djali in Wolof, or what in the French call a griot. And in English, it's a oral historian who utilizes music, poetry, and dance to reveal history and heal a nation.
And believe me, folks, she does it all. I've seen it.
So basically, I've been finding that a lot of people have been using the word historian and griot interchangeably, and they are totally two separate things. Then I realized that people were using the term griot and storyteller interchangeably, and they are two separate things.
Oh, tell me. I thought that was the case.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Enlighten
ironically,
me.
all griots can be storytellers if they choose to, but no storyteller is a griot. A griot will never tell a story, will never tell a fabrication, will never tell a fable. A griot only tells the truth in historic terms, and you only do it through music, poetry, and dance.
I got you.
So if I were to stand up and do a lecture on history, I would be a historian, but I wouldn't be a griot. If I were to get up and tell stories and fables, I'd be a storyteller, but I wouldn't be a griot.
Right.
But if I played music and revealed history, and you are healed in the process,
Right.
then that's a griot.
All right.
So that's basically what I do.
All right. And you have a CD out and you have a
Yes.
book out.
I've
let's
got
talk
this.
a little bit.
Basically, this is my fifth book, basically, and it's called "Recognizing and Resolving Racism: A Resource and Reference Guide for Humane Beings." Because the inhumane people do not care about resolving racism. And I know
course.
that.
Okay.
So it's for humane beings because we are all, I see it and know that there are only three types of people on the planet.
Right.
And people start wondering, okay, what's she going to say now?
Mm-hmm.
Three types. You're either a human being, a humane being, or an inhumane being.
Ooh, I
That's
like that.
Now, babies, they don't make a choice to be humane or inhumane. They're just babies.
Right.
If you're laying in a coma, you can make no choice to be humane or inhumane. You're just a human being.
Right.
But we have the privilege and opportunity to make choices every second of our lives.
Right.
And in every choice, we are either choosing humanity or inhumanity
Right on.
at some level.
I heard
Just
that.
if it's a matter of speaking to someone and saying hello, as opposed to looking them in the eye and ignoring them. Humanity or inhumanity. And that's it. Everybody on the planet is one of the above.
Right. And your CD is titled The Human Race.
The human race.
I love it.
And
I
that-
just love it. And let's break that down for our viewers a little bit. Because, the Genome Project came out about 5 or 6 years ago, and everybody's just ignoring it.
When it
Talk
was
about
being
that.
developed, a lot of people had no idea what was really going on with that, but it was all leading up to the cloning and where we're going today with the elitism and the eugenics and the control of the biological nature of the species,
Right.
all species on the planet.
Right.
And it's even evolved to the point where people are now looking, the powers that be, are looking at which species to carry on when they blast off the planet because they're destroying this one so much. So this was about over a decade ago when the biological and scientific community was trying to categorize every known species on the planet and break them down and to see the differences in their biological structure. And it was really interesting because one of the things that they found was that there is more variations of differences between what B.F. Blumenbach, who termed the term race, because we're all a human race.
Right.
But he came up with this concept in Germany back during the SS Hitler era, prior to that whole thing.
Yeah,
And they found that there is more differentiation within the so-called races than between the races.
Of course. Right.
Isn't that interesting?
Right, it
So
is.
we are all
It
simply
is.
one
In fact,
species.
I'd like to inject an anecdote. When it first came out, there were these two, scientists, the professors, sitting across from an interviewer, and they were all so-called white. The interviewer said to one of them, if I were a black man, what would be the difference between you and I? And the scientist looked at his partner and said, there might be more difference between he and I than between you and I. And I was a bit floored.
It's amazing.
Yes.
It's amazing. And even, I have twins, phenomenal
Yes,
vocalists,
Kahinde and
revolutionaries,
and
Kahinde and
Yohinde.
Taiwo.
And
And,
they're beautiful.
And they are like night and day. Even twins have a
Are they
great...
fraternal or identical?
No, they're identical.
I thought so,
And in
because
terms
I
of-
couldn't tell them
Oh,
apart.
People think we're triplets when we walk down the street. But in terms of their personalities and everything, they are very, very different. And we spend a lot of time looking at the visual differences between people.
Of course.
And
We're
making our
brainwashed like that.
stereotypical, judgments to that, as opposed to looking into it inside people.
Yeah.
And the
Judging a
thing that's-
book by its cover,
That's right.
basically.
And the most important thing about people is the things you can't see, how they think,
Their character,
their
integrity,
their
their
honesty,
honesty.
their honor, things
And
that
honesty.
words we rarely hear in this
Yes.
culture.
And
Honor and
respect.
integrity, respect,
All that good stuff.
yes,
And love.
and love.
Are they loving?
Are they loving? Crucial. And for the most part, we are taught in this culture, you better not love yourself. Because if you love yourself, guess what? I can't sell you anything. And then where would consumerism be
Right.
if you don't think that you're inadequate? So if you don't think that something's wrong with you, I can't sell you anything. But if you really love you and you look in the mirror and you say, wow, I really like that person, I'm not buying too much.
Right.
And the cosmetic surgery and all that fashion faddism is out the window. And this country is
And
going to go down the
consumerism is
tubes.
eating us alive, isn't
Yes, but it's the only thing keeping America alive. That's the irony of it. Because the minute we stop buying, ooh,
it? The House of Cards.
we make a revolutionary
Falls apart.
change. This December, don't buy anything. The country will not make it. That's why they have to get you into that consumerism spirit as soon as possible.
Right.
But
Well,
that's
we're right at the time when I should open the live lines and
Oh,
see
my
if
gosh, you
our
go so fast.
viewers would like to ask you a question. And our number is on screen, and it's 621-4473. If you have a question for our wonderful guest, Kfavia Kujichagulia.
yes, Kujichagulia.
And tell what Kujichagulia means. Chagulia.
Kujichagulia is, for those who know, it's the second principle of Kwanzaa,
Right.
which is self-determination.
All right.
Now, I also changed my middle name to Kuumba, which is creativity. My father named me Favia. I kept Favia. And anybody, if you know Greek, when you put a P and a H together in Greek, that's a F sound. Favia.
Right.
But I kept Kuumba and I kept Kujichagulia specifically because Marcus Garvey was always talking about identity. My mom, my grandmother, they were Garveyites. And they were always preaching about how wonderful Garvey is. So I studied everything I could on Marcus Garvey. And he kept saying, you have to name yourself. You have to know yourself.
Right.
And I looked at those principles of Kwanzaa and I thought, well, if you don't have self-determination, you can't do any of the others. You can't unify. You can't have cooperative economics. You can't do anything else unless you have self-determination. It's the only thing that even gets you out of the bed in the morning. You
I
have
heard
to be
that.
determined yourself to do whatever it's going to do. So I chose Kujichagulia
Right.
as my name because it's what is crucial about who I am.
Right. And
Doing it myself.
Favia, you were taught at Stanford for a while. I don't know how long. Would you talk a little bit about that
did.
experience?
That was really interesting because Stanford called me actually to come and teach a class there in ethnomusicology. Now today, ethnomusicology is a popular topic. My
Explain
daughter
what that
even
is for
teaches.
those who may not have heard that.
Ethnomusicology is the study of music as it relates to the social reality of a people in a certain time and place. So every culture has an ethnomusicological reality.
All right.
And based on your evolutionary process, your socialization, is going to lead you to a certain type of path in your music, which we see explicitly here in the United States. A lot of people now are in the gospel because they don't know the difference between spirituals and gospels. Gospels is mainstream religious music. It's what the enslaver, notice I did not say master, it's what the enslaver said you could preach, talk about. So we don't hear spirituals. Spirituals are based on African chants and African images. Gospel is the watered down, whitewashed, accepted version of that. We eventually got into, later on down the line, blues, because we all had to go through the blues. And you have the emotional blues, and then you have the technical blues, which is just the blues structure in terms of music. But the things that we went through with the Ma'afa, the Holocaust, the enslavement here in this country, we had a lot of blues. And
For sure.
we put that in the music because
Some of
we
us still got the blues.
But it was not legal to talk about the pain of enslavement. So you had to find another way to relate that, so that
And
was the evolution of the
express
blues.
yourself. I love that song.
And then when we had the so-called the mixing, and we had the Dixieland music, and then we eventually got to African American liberation music. Most people call that jazz. Today it's called jazz. Initially, jazz was a derogatory term, J-A-S-S. It meant S-H-I-T.
Oh.
Stop all that jazz. Remember that? Cut out all that jazz.
Oh, okay.
But eventually it was turned around, and now we don't know that. Now we just call it jazz because it is African American revolutionary music. Most people are now, their mainstream culture is trying to tell us now that jazz is American music. No, it is African American music based on the African tonal structures, African chords, and the history of Africans in this culture. Sure, anyone can play that music.
Right.
However, the evolution of that music, the process by which it developed, is unique to our existence and evolution in this culture.
Right.
Ethnomusicology.
Just like most Latino music is.
Definitely. So basically, they had called me because there was only one other gentleman teaching ethnomusicology in the States, and he was back east. So they brought me down to teach ethnomusicology, and it was just...
And you taught another subject there, I believe.
And African civilizations.
All right.
It was wonderful.
And how long did you stay?
I was there for 2 years.
All right.
And then I went to a school called World College West, where they had international students come from around the world to study at that school. And they had a wonderful program because you had to spend 2 years in the States studying, and then you had to spend 2 years in another country studying. But whatever you studied had to be based on environmentalism. So it couldn't be for profit, for the pure spectacle of consumerism. It had to be about improving the quality of life on the planet, which is why I loved that program.
I heard that.
And it was really interesting because I had one student there who was always so eager to promote the wonders of slavery and how slavery was such a wonderful thing. And I spent a lot of classes keeping the rest of the students away from him, trying not to jump on this guy. And I didn't find out till way down in the course of the semester that he was born and raised in South Africa. And he had come here to study. But by the time he finished my class, he signed up with the Communist Party, and he went to work to get Lenore Fulani elected to the presidency. Most people don't know that there was a second black woman who ran for the president here in this country. Shirley Chisholm was the first. First black person to run for president.
I didn't realize that Fulani had run for president.
Lenore Fulani, well, they did everything to keep her off the ballot.
Oh, I'm
They
sure.
did it. That's how effective
I'm
they
sure.
were.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. They don't, no people's people can get on the ballot.
So he went and signed up to help her become president. His parents disowned him. He calls me regularly to tell me what wonderful work he's doing with the revolutionary struggle. It was just amazing.
Favia, we're getting close to running out of time,
sorry.
and what I want, we do have enough time
Oh my gosh.
to do our call and response. Let's go for it. Do you want to?
Sure. This is a poem that I wrote called Political Prisoners and Prisoners of War, Got to Free 'Em All.
And
it's actually on my CD.
I can hand it to you.
Sure. If you ever get a chance, go right online and purchase The Human Race, The Only Race by Favia Kuchichago.
And Favia, you play the trumpet and the
percussion, traps, yeah.
all of it.
Dance,
Yeah.
do a little bit of everything.
Yeah. So let's do this call and response before we're clean out of time.
Bring us out of Shakur.
Bring a shot, Sadiq Shakur.
Bring her home for sure.
Bring her home for sure.
Like Geronimo Pratt.
Like Geronimo
We
Pratt.
brought the brother back.
We brought the brother back.
Now free Leonard Peltier.
Free Leonard Peltier.
And you free your fears.
And you free your fear.
Free Marilyn Buck.
Free Marilyn Buck.
We got to free him up.
We got to free him up.
We freed Fred Hampton's son.
We freed Fred Hampton's son.
We freeing everyone.
We're freeing everyone.
We freed Alicia Rodriguez. And now we calling on Jesus. The free Mamiya Abu Jamal. Got to free him all. Got to free him all. Free Mamiya Abu Jamal. Got to free 'em all.
Got to free 'em all.
Too many doing time out of sight and out of mind. Locked behind the wall like Mamil Abba Jamal, Mafoon Lake, Hanif Shabazz, Baby, Shamid, Abdul Majid, and Sundi Ada Akole. Political prisoners and prisoners of war, yeah, we all know what they're fighting for. Like old Pat Henry, give me liberty or death since the 18th century, but no justice yet. Just genocide throughout the nation, character assassination, stereotypes in black and white, fundamentalists preaching left and right. They got the media twinking, got the TV blinking every day in every way. Well, you know what they say, turnabout's fair play. Check it. I don't want to hear another word about OJ until I get the hype on Timothy McVeigh or Terry Nichols and his son, the one that got away. Like the CIA, the KKK, the whole USA, they're preaching one, 2, 3 strikes you out. But no one's talking about military militialists flying the coop while militiamen come home to roost. They got the media twinking, got the TV blinking every day in every way. Like Assata Shakur, you can't go home for sure. Due to white supremacy, American hypocrisy, no justice or democracy here in the land of the 3/5 free. Still the home of the brave, though no Buffalo Rome. Gotta make sure all the freedom fighters get back home, right here in the land of the 3/5 free. Still the home of the brave, though no Buffalo Rome. Gotta make sure all the freedom fighters get back home. That's why we say, bring us out of Shakur. Bring her home for sure. Like Geronimo Pratt, we brought the brother back. Now free Leonard Peltier, and you free your fears. Free Marilyn Buck, yeah, we gonna free him up. We freed Fred Hampton's son, we freeing everyone. We freed Alicia Rodriguez, and we even calling on Jesus, to free Mamil Abba Jamal. Got to free him all, got to free him all. Free Mamil Abba Jamal, got to free him all.
Hey! That was wonderful.
So the poetry is crucial because we can put the consciousness in there. We've gone from intelligence and wisdom and education to antipathy for education and ignorance. We've gone from cultural consciousness to consumerism. We've really regressed. That's why there's very little progress. So we've got to flip the script.
Yes, we do. Favia Kujichagulia. We're just about clean out of time, so I'm going to ask you. I know it flew, didn't it? I want another poem. But in any case, I want you to, whatever.
Well, I just want to thank you. I know you're doing a lot of work with the San Francisco 8 Committee.
Yes.
A lot of people need to really be on top of that because, remember, one day they're going to come for you. And if you don't speak up, there will be no one to stop them. So we have all got to stop injustice, all types of injustice,
all right.
Every time we see it.
Thank you so much, Favia Kujichagulia.
Thank you.
And tune in next week, please, for Dr. Muhammad Ahmad, also known Good evening and welcome to Freedom is a Constant Struggle with your host Kilu Nyasha, engineered by Dina Boyer. I'm very pleased to welcome as our guest this evening Yuri Kochiyama. She's a living legend. She knows Malcolm X, knew Malcolm X, and Malcolm X's birthday is coming up. It's going to be celebrated on the 19th, and Yuri Kochiyama happens to have the same birthday. And she met and worked with Malcolm in Harlem. She lived in Harlem for 40 years. And Yuri Kochiyama, welcome to Freedom is a Constant Struggle. So good to have you back.
Well, thank you so much, Kayla. It's kind of you to invite me.
Well, it's a joy to have you, and an honor. I feel very privileged to even know you. You're such a living legend. But I do want to ask you right off. In reading I should alert my viewers that 2 books have been written. You wrote your memoir, Passing It On. Excellent, I've read it. And Heartbeat of Struggle, The Revolutionary Life of Yuri Kochiyama, was written by Diane Fujino. And it's a biography. And when I read Diane's book, I learned that there was a Japanese delegation that came to visit you and wanted to meet Malcolm. Will you elaborate on that?
Oh, yes. This was in 1964, about June. So when you think of the year 1964, you know that's only about half a year before Malcolm was assassinated.
Right.
But anyway, these Hibakshas, it was a group of 45, and Hibaksha means atom bomb victim. They came not just to America, they went on to Europe and all the way to Moscow to speak out against nuclear proliferation.
Right.
And the group had heard the name Malcolm. I don't know exactly how they even thought about Malcolm because, you know, the American press did not have a very good, I mean, they would not show any kind of a good image of Malcolm. But the Japanese knew that black people admired him and wondered also, however, why America would be afraid of one lone black man. They wanted to know what Malcolm X was like. And so they asked if there was a way of meeting Malcolm and hearing him speak. And that's when he came. We lived in Harlem, and he came to
And
meet.
that was we, meaning you and your husband and 6 children, right?
Right. Yes. And people told us, Malcolm's not going to go to your house. He doesn't know you, and it's dangerous for him right now. What made you think that he might come? Well, I said, well, it's true. I'm not sure. I wrote to him. I did not hear from him, but his office called and said they would do whatever they could that he might come. And he did. And our place was jam-packed. Well, we lived in a housing project in Harlem, and I wasn't sure he was going to come, so I didn't want to advertise it too much and have people come, and then they'll wonder what happened that he didn't come. But a lot of people showed. Our house was jam-packed, and Malcolm did come, and we were all so surprised and just so tickled. People were really more amazed that he would take the chance of coming to a strange home of people he didn't even know anything about when there were so many rumors that something might happen to Malcolm. And when he did come, of course the people were just so excited. Everybody wanted to shake his hand. They didn't know if he would shake the hands of white people or what. But Malcolm just surprised everyone. He was so warm to everyone, no matter what color. And people were just astounded that Malcolm has that wonderful way. You could help me on some adjectives. You know, Malcolm, he
had charisma.
Charisma, that's
right.
the word.
Yes.
He has
He
so
really
much
did.
charisma.
Right.
And yet he's so down to earth. Yeah.
Exactly.
And he shook hands with everybody, regardless of what color, black or white or Latino, Asian. And people couldn't believe that this is the Malcolm X they've read about in American
always,
newspapers.
Who's always portrayed as a hater and
Right.
hateful and all that.
Yes.
Yeah. Talk about, well, you had already met Malcolm before he came to the house.
Right.
And you did work with him, I believe.
Well, no, I was just one of thousands of, followers.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see. Okay. One of the things that I wanted you to talk about a little bit about was you were mentioning earlier that he wasn't just a black man, he was a black experience.
Right.
Will
Oh,
you
yes.
talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I would like to quote that. I don't know who wrote it, but I think it's beautiful that it just fits him. That Malcolm was not just a black man, he was the black experience. He was bathed in blackness, and yet he repudiated his slave name and just added an X, the unknown, the possibility of what might be, the reality of what he became. And I think that's so beautiful, and I'm sorry I don't know who the author is.
Right. Well, he did change his name to Al-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz.
Right.
And El-Hajj, I believe, indicates that you've made the pilgrimage to Mecca.
Right.
And when he did go to Mecca, was it in '64?
Yes.
Talk about how that changed him a little bit.
Yes. That certainly did change him, but I want to also credit Malcolm's sister Ella Collins, who made an influence in Malcolm's life, because she wanted Malcolm to grow up as a possible leader of his people. And Malcolm, almost like he knew what was in store for him, he just had it inside of him, a very deep love for his people, and he wanted to know as much of history of Africans and black Americans here, because one day he wanted to be able to share all that he would learn. And I think with the question, however, you asked was
Basically, when he came back from his pilgrimage to Mecca, he had a different outlook. For example, when we were talking earlier, we talked about how he was very hostile toward whites in his black nationalist period.
Right.
And the beauty of Malcolm was how he kept growing and changing.
Yes.
From when he was a hustler and a pimp in Harlem,
Right.
and in Detroit, he was known as Detroit Red, and he was imprisoned for 9 years, during which he he studied hard, became a Muslim, copied every word in the dictionary, became very, very articulate
Right.
and well-read. And when he came out, that's how he became so popular right away, because he was so well-spoken and so able to capture an audience.
right, and that's why the U.S. government began to see him as a threat, because Malcolm's name went out all over, and of course Malcolm did actually go to Africa, to about 11 countries, I think.
Right,
And he
Tanzania,
met all
Ghana,
the-
Egypt.
Yes.
Yeah.
He met all the most progressive leaders of
Right,
Africa.
he met heads of state, yeah,
Right.
right.
And
He even met Castro in Cuba.
yes,
Right.
yes, he did. And he, the name Vicky Garvin, I hope, is familiar to people. She is almost like a woman, Malcolm X, but she perhaps is not so well known because she lives so much of her life in Africa. And in 1964, when Malcolm went to Ghana, she's the one who introduced Malcolm to the international community. And people were very, very impressed, especially the Chinese ambassador. And the Chinese ambassador practically begged Malcolm, please come to China. they have not met many black leaders in China.
Right.
But Malcolm felt he couldn't because he had so many commitments he had already made.
Uh-huh.
And so he asked if Vicky Garvin could go to China for
Right.
him. And she did. And at first, Vicky didn't know how long she would stay. But she said, okay, she would go for Malcolm. And she went there, and people thought, oh, she may stay a week or two. She stayed 10 years.
Wow.
Yes.
In the People's Republic of China.
Yes.
During what period? What, in the 70s?
In the 60s and 70s.
60s and 70s.
Yes.
All
And
right.
It's sad that activists don't know her name because I think she did so much of her work in Africa.
Oh, all right.
In the Middle East.
Well,
She
perhaps
died in Queens, in New York, but she was quite old then, and it's sad that people are not aware, and I hope someone like you, as you've been teaching all of us, will teach not just black people, but everybody about the life of Vicky Garvin, too.
Yes, well, I'll have to do some research. I'll have to take that
there
on.
hasn't been enough about her.
Right, yeah,
Yes.
she sounds fascinating.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
But getting back to Malcolm, and I also want to invite our viewers to call in if they have a question to 621-4473, our live line. And we're speaking with Yuri Kochiyama, who was also, by the way, present when Malcolm X was assassinated in the Audubon Ballroom, February 21st, I believe, 1965.
Right.
And Yuri was rushed to him and literally cradled his head in her lap as he was dying. And he was a tremendous loss to our struggle. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that China wanted Malcolm to come because eventually the Black Panther Party members went. A delegation, Huey and Emory Douglas and Huey Newton and some others were received by Zhou Enlai in China. And that was quite an event.
Yes.
But, of course, the Black Panther Party was Malcolm X all the way, taking him...
Oh, I think every black organization, was influenced by Malcolm.
They were very much influenced.
Whether it was, was it a SNCC or what's the other group, same time as SNCC?
The Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, and...
there was even RAM, Revolutionary Action Movement, which is Muhammad Ahmed's group. And actually, Malcolm was a part of it, but they couldn't let anyone know. I mean, the FBI, CIA were just trailing Malcolm everywhere.
Yeah. Because Malcolm was not a capitalist. He said, you show me a capitalist, I'll show you a bloodsucker.
Right. Yes. And although the white press was very, very unkind to Malcolm, Malcolm said, I am an extremist, and I am not ashamed of it.
Right.
The conditions that my people suffered were
extreme.
Were
extreme poverty, racism. Yes.
Right. That
exploitation.
Yes.
I remember.
And so that moderate medicine could not cure American racism. And
yes,
you
couldn't cure extremism with moderate medicine, right?
Right. And I like the way he always made these quotes. One was, if cat had kittens in the oven, they would not be biscuits. And he would follow it up with, I was born in America, but I'm not an American. I am a victim of America. And he was very clear, and that's why as a leader at that time, he was different from the many, many, many other black leaders. They
Absolutely.
never went so far as to say some of the things he did.
No, no.
But he really educated,
Right.
not just black people, but it opened the eyes and hearts of people who for the first time started to see America for what America was.
Right. And as I understand it, Yuri, he sent you postcards from
Yeah.
various places that he was traveling.
Oh, yes,
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think he sent, 11 from 9 different countries. I mean, Kenya, Nigeria, Egypt. I mean,
Did you save them?
what?
Do you
Oh,
still
yes.
have them?
Oh, yes. I'll keep them
Fantastic.
forever and pass
Right.
them down to my grands.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
And Malcolm had such a way with people, I think because he was so genuine.
Yes,
And
he was.
that's why
He was our
people
Black
just
Prince.
really loved Malcolm.
Yes.
And I don't think there's any other leader, national leader, that had that kind of love bestowed on them.
No.
And-
I remember I was living in New York City
Oh.
when the funeral took place, but I was still, semi-conscious. I was just kind of waking up, still in my 20s. And I remember the funeral in Harlem, and it was huge. The streets were packed. And, of course, Ozzie Davis gave the
Right.
eulogy,
Oh,
which was
beautiful.
Viewers, if you haven't heard that, you should look it up. You should Google that.
Yes.
Just
Oh,
the-
yes.
Ozzie Davis' eulogy to Malcolm X was just incredible.
Yes, and people still recite it.
Oh yes,
They've memorized it. It's
Yes.
just, it'll
Yes.
live.
And when he came back from Mecca, also one of the problems I have with a lot of our more narrow nationalist brothers and sisters is that they tend to quote Malcolm, early Malcolm,
Oh, yes.
and they refuse to acknowledge changed Malcolm, and it's almost as bad as portraying him as a hustler and a pimp.
Yeah.
Because and he changed from that. He changed from being a narrow nationalist. He became an internationalist, and almost no sooner than he became an internationalist, they assassinated him.
Right. Because he
That's
had
when he
met-
became a threat.
Right, with so many progressive Africans, and United States knew that Malcolm made an impact in Africa.
Oh, yes.
So Malcolm became a threat to the U.S.
Oh, absolutely.
But one of the people who affected Malcolm in a very good way were the Algerians. This Algerian went up to Malcolm and said, "I'm an Algerian, and our people were born here, we lived it, but we look white to some people."
North Africans, right.
Yeah, North African.
Yeah, yeah.
And so he said, "So how does that figure with you? What do you see us as?" But then, and Malcolm listened very carefully, and then he said, "Yes, you are as African as any other African who is darker." And he said, "I'm glad you came and told me that yourself." He said, "There are things that I have to learn and change." And so that was a good example. Malcolm did change
Right.
in many ways.
He was always growing and developing
Yes.
and changing.
And even some things he said he even was sorry for. Benjamin Goodman was one of. We have to wrap.
Yeah, we do have to
I'm
wrap
sorry.
up.
Wait a minute. What shall we wrap up on?
Oh, it's okay. I don't want you to get nervous, but finish what you were saying. We got another.
Oh,
30 seconds.
I forgot what I was saying.
We were talking about Malcolm changing from his attitude toward whites.
Right, and especially listen to this Algerian.
Right.
But also, Malcolm told Brother Benjamin that he was even sorry that he answer so rudely to the white girl who came to the restaurant,
Right.
you know, and
Yes.
said, "What can I do for you?" And he said, "Nothing," because
Right.
he said he believes in treating everybody with, you know, as
As a human being.
Yes, as human
Right.
beings.
And that's what he did. He took it to a higher level, to
Right.
the human rights level, not
Right.
just civil
Yeah,
rights.
'cause
We're
Malcolm
completely
said,
out
yeah.
of time. Yuri Kochiyama, thank you so much for
Oh,
being our
thank
guest
you.
here on Freedom is a Constant Struggle. Be sure and go to the Malcolm X Jazz Fest. And no, we can't announce the Jazz Festival for 2008. So, but we're now going to go to two archived news reports in 1983 that featured interviews with Hugo Lyons Antonio Pinel, also known as Yogi Bear. Stay tuned.
Hugo Pinel is considered the most dangerous prisoner in California. He's kept alive by total isolation from the rest of the inmates at Folsom Prison. That label, he says, may eventually lead to his death in prison.
I just started my 20th year in prison, and my 15th year in isolation straight, and my 14th year without having a contact visit with my family or any loved ones, you see. So, and, you know, like I've been made to be in the eyes of the public by the department to be the most dangerous prisoner in the state of California, you see. But now I find myself being the most endangered prisoner because of the circumstances that have been built around me by the administration.
At the San Quentin 6 trial, Pinel insisted he represent himself. As a social revolutionary, he says he didn't trust lawyers. Now that Spain will be retried, Pinel has also started the legal proceedings for a new trial. The Spain conviction was overturned after a secret meeting between the judge and a juror was discovered. For now, Pinel says he is trying to stay alive and trying to live down his notorious reputation.
I want to believe that if I ever come out of prison, that I can be a constructive element to my community, you see. But if I react at any particular time, I feel that they will have won the game that they want to play, because either way, I'm doomed, you see. If they kill me, they succeeded. If I react, they succeeded in trying to prove to the public that I am, you know, what they say that I am supposed to be.
The name of Hugo Pinel is one that used to be in the headlines but hasn't been heard from much in years. A radical prison inmate, a man considered extremely dangerous by prison officials. Pinel took part almost 13 years ago in one of the most violent episodes in California prison history. That was a case of the San Quentin 6. But now, after spending more than half his life behind bars, Pinel claims he is more victim than criminal. And to get that view across, he's agreed to only his second interview ever, and the first by any Bay Area news organization. Art Cribbs has that report.
It's a long ways from Nicaragua to Folsom, a long time from a wild kid of 19 to a mature prison veteran of 39. Such is the case of Hugo Pinel. Hugo Pinel is what is traditionally called institutionalized. He's been in state penitentiaries for almost 20 years. 14 of those years he's been in the SHU. That's the Security Housing Unit. We call it the Hole.
They brought me to Folsom in 1976. They took all the chains. They told me, you never be chained here, you never be handcuffed, and as long as you behave, then we're going to give you contact visits and treat you like everybody else. That has not been the case. I've been without chains, I've been without cuffs, I've been able to move around the guards, around the staff here, and there's no threat on my part, there's no danger on my part, you see.
A lot has happened to Hugo Pinel. In 1971, Hugo's close friend and political ally, George Jackson, was killed in what prison officials said was an escape attempt led by Jackson. Hugo Pinel insists Jackson was set up and murdered. Pinel was later convicted with the so-called San Quentin 6 for that incident on August 21st, 1971. Today, Pinel is placed in a 138-cell unit. He's allowed outside a minimum of 10 hours a week. Outside means in the exercise yard within the state's maximum area. He says he remains here because he's a political prisoner.
I'm a political prisoner because I became aware. I became politically involved with the conditions in prison. I became historically aware of what was going on with black people and what was going on, and you know, throughout the world politically. So I think that I am because of the way that I've been persecuted. And all I can say is that it has been because of my political beliefs.
Pinel calls himself a revolutionary, but says he's not a danger to society, that he's the one in danger. He was first isolated from other inmates at Soledad. It was there he was also isolated from his family and the world.
I was in the hole in Owen in Soledad in 1970, and as a result of representing a strike. You know, I was chosen the representative of a strike, and that was about the longest strike we ever had in Soledad, especially in Old Wing. And as a result of that, the officers began kind of hostile towards me. They wanted to isolate me. They wanted to do certain things. So one day they charged me with the assault on a guard, you see, and they took me from that section to a strip cell and kept me there for a while until they moved me to a special cell across the wing, you see. And after that, ever since then, like, they took my contact distance from my family, from my loved ones, and I haven't even had a contact distance since then.
On January 28th, Pinnell was stabbed. It was the 6th time he had been attacked in 7 years. Prison officials believe he's made enemies here because of his political beliefs.
Right.
He says prison authorities want him dead.
I feel that everything that has happened to me with regards to attacks, that leads to the administration taking part in this.
Although California law requires an annual review of inmates who are in the hole, Pinnell has been here more than half of his 20-year prison career. Warden Joseph Campoy would not talk to us about Pinnell, but a prison official in Sacramento did say Hugo Pinnell will be an old man before he gets out, if he is ever released. Hugo Pinnell is a man buried alive, but who has a family who refuses to let him be forgotten. At Folsom State Prison, I'm Art Cribbs, KTVU, Channel 2 News.
Clearly, prison authorities wanted Hugo Pinnell dead, and after 44 years of torture in Pelican Bay SHU, they succeeded by transferring him back to Folsom, where he had known enemies. He was eventually released to the general population and just 2 weeks later was attacked and murdered. Just as we're convinced George Jackson was set up to be assassinated, we believe Hugo Pinnell was also targeted for elimination. For more information on Hugo Pinnell, go to HUGOPINELL.com. Thank you so much for tuning in to Freedom is a Constant Struggle. Thank Andrew Montoya for board offing. Tune in next week, February 18th, same time, same station, for Black History Month special with guest Kat Brooks of the Anti-Police Terror Project. Good evening, and all power to the people. Abolish the prison system. Justice for Mario Woods and all those murdered by police. Power to the people and Vincent Amos. I'm Key Lunyasha. Good evening.